Yes, Derek.
Is it the correctly using the double breathing exercise that I need to crack through resistance, complacency, and
No, no,
indolence and laziness?
Derek, you don't need the double breathing exercise. I mean, what you need to crack resistance is gratitude, the ability to focus your mind in the chakra below the navel, the allowance of higher energy to enter your system and develop a chakra system. And if you do those things, when you breathe in the double breathing exercise into the heart chakra below the navel and below the navel, the breath becomes prana, it's like life, it's energy. And it will open and not, it won't open, but it will develop the chakra system inside. So the chakra system becomes strong enough for you to be a receptacle for spiritual energy. The breath is not primary. Gratitude is primary. Keeping your mind focused below the navel because the mind is the strongest instrument you have. Very powerful instrument that when you focus it, it literally becomes like a surgical instrument that will open the chakra below the navel. These come first. Once you do this, then you use the breath, the inhalation to, the heart is open because there's gratitude. You breathe into the heart, the breath will strengthen the heart chakra. I mean, Rudy always used to tell me that the chakra system are like psychic muscles. And, if you don't exercise, if you don't go to the gym, walk, do something physically, your physical muscles will atrophy. You understand? If you don't work on the chakra system, those psychic muscles will also atrophy and they will cut off a connection between a human being and higher energy, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it. So the first step is, learning to keep your mind focused below the navel. The will, the need to grow spiritually enables you to do that. Then gratitude opens the heart. The mind gets quiet and you become a receptacle for spiritual energy. And you learn how to use your breathing as a way of developing a strong chakra system inside yourself. I hope it's clear, because there are steps in the exercise. First one is stay focused. Second one is gratitude. Third one is conscious breathing. Those are the steps. Those steps lead to a very good place if they're done properly and consciously. I like to see you smiling, Derek. It's very nice. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, I have a question.
Yes.
Um, you and everyone else talk about how Rudy always was always working on himself, and I think you are always working on yourself.
No, I can't. You have to speak up for.
Um, Sorry, you and others always talk about how much Rudy was working on himself all the time, and I think you are too. And would you explain a little more, or is it exactly what you just told Derek? How that manifested, how you learned from that, what you saw, what you learned.
Well, it manifested because at one point in my work with Rudy, he asked me to teach this. And once I started teaching this, the demands of this inner work meant that I had to, consciously work on myself in order to build a system to be able to do it. So like today, I think I taught 3 meditation classes already today. I mean, that's not an ordinary day in the ordinary life of a human being, but doing that enables me to consciously build my system inside. I have 2 more coming up today. It's been a very busy day. I don't mind that. You understand? Look, it comes from a need that Rudy had in himself. I mean, I would go to his gallery maybe 3, 4 times a week. I would just go to visit. I never walked in there where he wasn't, unless he was with a client trying to sell some art to them, where he wasn't sitting there and working on himself. And I learned from that. And then he would let me sit down with him and uh, you know work with him. And I needed that kind of training. And that kind of training enabled me to continue on in my life doing this work. I mean, I used to have a gallery in New York. I mean, years ago. This is like in the 80s. And I'm telling you, it was, I mean, healings went on and meditation classes went on. And periodically, I would even deal with a customer that would come in the place. I mean, it was nonstop. At first I had like, oh, what's going on? And then I said, no, Stuart, you need this. You need this because this is helping you to grow in your life. This is helping you master the technique that Rudy taught you. How it happened? It just evolved. It just evolved. And I found that it became an essential ingredient of my life to teach. I think, what do I teach every month? 25 classes a month between the in-person classes at home and online classes. I mean, at this point in my life, I always kid around. I should be somewhere in the Bahamas drinking Coca Locos, you know, and you know, and I couldn't live that way. So it's just evolved this way. My karma evolved this way. And I found that having evolved this way and taking this responsibility on myself, it enabled me to build a system inside that was gradually getting me closer and closer to God, to a higher energy in the universe. And it also gave me a deeper respect for the people that attend the classes because every single one of them is helping me to grow in my life. And basically, that's what I'm here to do, to grow, to consciously work on myself and continue to grow. How did this happen? I don't know. One day I met this amazing master, and through, being in contact, in touch, studying with him, it now enabled this thing to grow. And I must admit, this is not for everybody. Doing this kind of work constantly probably would freak a lot of people out. They'd rather be out doing, I don't know what, but it works. It works for me to have all these classes. And I've done so much stuff in my life. And when I weigh it up against doing this, there's no, it just doesn't even begin to tip the scales. Because this really enables me to get to the deepest parts of my inner self, the most profound elements in Stuart, my connection with higher energy in the universe, my willingness to unblock myself to keep that energy flowing. No, it doesn't mean I sit and meditate 24 hours a day. I don't. But, 25 classes a week, a month, sitting and doing this with all of you. so many times a week. I mean, this is a demand, and I have to live a life that has time to do this. And the universe has provided for me in a way that there's time to do this. When I was younger, I didn't have time to do this. I had to go to work, I had this, I had that, other things. But as I evolved, it's like this whole thing just opened up and provided me the time to live my life the way I live it. I always compare it to, like the Red Sea parted, and suddenly there was a promised land. And, and it's kind of like that. As you grow in yourself, understand the universe begins to watch out for you and make sure that you have time to serve God, higher energy in the universe. It makes sure of it. It put me in a business that I never even believed I was in a business. I used to make a lot of money at it too, but it wasn't the kind of business where I had to work 19 hours a day in order to, you know, it always gave me free time to do this. And I never thought of being in that kind of business when I was younger, being running art in art gallery and dealing in Asian art. I never thought of it. But the universe guided my life to provide me with a way to earn a living that never interfered with this, ever. It also gave me the ability, it provided me with an enormous amount of traveling, learning, going to so many different places in the world that I would go for business, for spiritual things, for all kinds of stuff used to manifest. And it was very interesting. But it was my need to have a spiritual life and my willingness to do what I do that the universe made it possible for me to do it and also earn a good living. And I mean, look, I've lived in mansions, I had fabulous house up in Woodstock, unbelievable house, up in Woodstock, lofts in Manhattan, 4,000 square foot lofts. I used to live in. I mean, my life has gotten a lot simpler now, which I'm a little bit grateful for. You know, it was, you know, it was a lot, but it provided and it never interfered with my teaching, with my doing this practice that I do, and with my, willingness to have people come and sit with me and serve a higher energy. It's like Rudy told me, he said, God is God. The best a guru can be is the servant of God and the servant of his students or her students. So when the need goes that deep, the universe provides. It really does. It makes sure you can do it. And it doesn't mean you meditate. I mean, look, when I lived in Manhattan, I was in the theater. I go to the theater all the time. I, dance and, theater and drama and music. And, it's a little more difficult doing it. I mean, it's also a lot more expensive today, going to the theater and doing things like that. But I used to be, I had a lot of students that were dancers and this. I would go to their concerts all the time. It denied nothing and provided everything. Now, I hope this is clear to all of you, because it's really important. I mean, my famous story about when I was younger, I used to work as a waiter in restaurants. I never went into a restaurant where they let me work the hours I wanted to work. It was always like, 4 o'clock to midnight, and I remember I needed a job while I was studying with Rudy. And I always used to find a job waiting table. One day I would have a job somewhere and have some money in my pocket. So I walked into a restaurant and I said, I'm looking for a job as a waiter. Do you have anything available? Oh, yes. He said to me, the manager said, what hours do you want to work? I couldn't believe my ears. I mean, it was like the universe saying, here, you have to go to these classes. You choose and I chose the days, the hour. It enabled me to go to every one of Rudy's meditation classes. That never happened to me before. So anyway, I'm just sharing this with all of you. And again, I always tell you all that we're all unique and we live unique lives. But everybody can find the time and the space to do what is really important in their life, especially if they're connecting with spirit, higher energy. It will guide your life. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, if there are no more classes, again, as I always say, thank you and God bless you all. And thank you for being in my life, for being in these classes, for enabling us all, hopefully, to grow because of these classes. So God bless you all. Thank you. There will be meditation tomorrow evening, 7:30. And if you happen to be in Stamford, Connecticut, there'll be a class at 7 o'clock this evening. I know it's a big commute from Jerusalem, but there will be a class here at 7 o'clock this evening. God bless you. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody soon.